Hands where I can see them, the air marshal said quietly. She's a child, the mother replied, voice steady, eyes unblinking. Ma'am, step aside. Now. The cabin fell into a hush that felt louder than the engines. Overhead lights hummed. A seatbelt chimed somewhere behind them, unanswered. 12-year-old Aaliyah Carter sat frozen in 18B, palms open, fingers trembling. The cold bite of metal touched her wrist, then clicked, too final, too loud. Her mother, Danielle Carter, didn't raise her voice. She did something stranger. She pressed the call button above their row and didn't let go. Sir? She said, still calm. This stops here. The air marshal, badge clipped, jaw set, glanced at the growing ring of faces. Phones hovered, unsure. A flight attendant stood a step back, eyes darting. The smell of recycled air mixed with coffee and fear. Ma'am, he repeated, you are interfering with federal duties. Danielle's thumb stayed on the button. Ding. 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 Aaliyah swallowed. Her sneakers scuffed the carpet. Mom? She whispered. Danielle leaned close without breaking eye contact. I'm right here, she said. Look at me. The marshal tightened the cuff. Aaliyah flinched. That's when Danielle said the sentence that changed the temperature of the plane. There's one thing I haven't told you yet, she said, voice level. And once I do, this flight isn't going anywhere. A murmur rippled through the cabin. Someone gasped. The captain's voice crackled faintly from the cockpit, cut off mid-word. The marshal paused. Just a beat. Long enough for doubt to flicker. Release her, a man across the aisle muttered. Is this even allowed? A woman asked. Record, someone whispered. Danielle lifted her chin. You think this is about compliance, she said softly. But here's what most people miss. She reached into her bag, slowly, deliberately, and stopped, hands visible. I'm not asking, she added. I'm documenting. The call button kept chiming. Ding. Ding. Somewhere up front, a door opened. Footsteps hurried. The plane's air shifted as if holding its breath. The marshal leaned closer, lowering his voice. Ma'am, last warning. Danielle met his eyes. Then listen carefully, she said. Because this next part changes everything. Aaliyah's cuffed wrist trembled between them. The engines idled. Time stretched thin. Enjoying this? Tap subscribe for tomorrow's story. The plane still hadn't moved. That was the first thing Danielle Carter noticed, the stillness. No taxi. No rumble. Just the soft whir of air pushing through vents, and the weight of dozens of eyes pretending not to stare. The captain's voice returned, measured but tense. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We are addressing a situation in the cabin. A situation. Danielle almost smiled. She loosened her grip on the call button at last. The chime stopped, leaving a ringing silence behind it. Aaliyah's cuffed wrist rested on the armrest, metal biting into skin that still carried faint freckles from summer. Danielle reached for her daughter's free hand. Breathe with me, she said. In. Out. You're not in trouble. The air marshal straightened. His name tag ready, Harris. Late 30s, neat haircut, practice calm. He glanced toward the front, then back at Danielle. You were instructed to remain seated during a security inquiry, he said. You ignored that. I pressed a button, Danielle replied. That's allowed. A flight attendant stepped closer, Linda, according to her pin. Ma'am, she said gently. What seems to be the issue? Danielle didn't answer right away. She looked down at Aaliyah's wrist, then back up at Linda. My daughter was accused of tampering with a seat sensor, she said. Without evidence. And now she's in restraints. Harris interjected. We received a report of repeated seatbelt alerts from this row. That triggers protocol. Danielle nodded once. And protocol requires handcuffs on a minor? Harris hesitated. A fraction of a second. Enough. Across the aisle, a man leaned forward. She hasn't moved, he said. My screen's been on the whole time. Harris shot him a look. Sir, stay out of this. Danielle raised a hand, not to stop him, but to mark the moment. She pulled a slim notebook from her bag. Black cover. Elastic band. She opened it. 12:14 p.m., she said quietly. Seat 18B. Federal officer applied restraints to a 12-year-old. Reason cited, sensor alerts. No visual confirmation. Linda blinked. Ma'am, are you taking notes? Yes, Danielle said. I always do. If you want the full truth, hit like so this story reaches more people. Aaliyah squeezed her mother's hand. Mom, am I? No, Danielle said, quick and certain. You are not. Harris lowered his voice. You're escalating this. Danielle met his eyes. No. I'm preserving it. From the front, 2 uniformed pilots appeared in the aisle. The first officer whispered to Harris. Danielle couldn't hear the words, but she saw the shift, the way authority rebalanced when witnesses multiplied. Ma'am, the captain said, addressing Danielle now. We need to resolve this before departure. Danielle closed the notebook halfway. Then start by removing the cuffs. The captain looked at Harris. Harris didn't move. There's something else, Danielle added, tapping the notebook. A reason I'm precise about times and language. Harris frowned. What reason? Danielle didn't answer. She reached into her bag again, slower than before, and pulled out a flat, laminated card, face down. She didn't flip it yet. Not until the aisle filled. Not until the whispering grew. Not until Aaliyah looked up and said, barely audible, Mom, what is that? Danielle rested the card on her palm. It's the part, she said. That explains why this didn't have to happen. Harris stared at the card. The captain waited. And the plane stayed exactly where it was. Danielle didn't turn the card over. Not yet. That delay did more than any argument. It stretched the moment, made people lean forward. Even Harris felt it. His eyes stayed on the card like it might move on its own. Ma'am, the captain said again, slower now. If you're carrying identification, you should present it. Danielle nodded. I will. She slid the card back into her bag instead. After we talk about what actually happened. Harris exhaled through his nose. We already covered that. Did we? Danielle asked. Because you said sensor alerts. You didn't say how many. Linda glanced at the seat console. It was 3, she said, uncertain. Within a few minutes. Danielle wrote. 3 alerts. Thank you. Aaliyah swallowed. I didn't touch it, she said. I was reading. I know, Danielle said. A man 2 rows back raised his phone a little higher. The red dot blinked. Harris noticed. Sir, recording federal personnel is legal, the man replied. On a plane. In public. Harris's jaw tightened. Captain? The captain hesitated. The pause said more than words. Danielle leaned closer to Harris. Here's what most people miss, she said softly. Sensors fail. People don't. She pointed to the seat. If the sensor was faulty, maintenance would log it. Did anyone check? Silence. Linda shook her head. We were told to call it in. Danielle nodded. Call it in. Not cuff a child. Across the aisle, a woman whispered. She's right. Harris straightened. Ma'am, last chance. Present your ID or step aside. Danielle looked at Aaliyah's wrist again. The skin beneath the cuff was pink now. Before I do, Danielle said, answer one question for the cabin. She turned, voice carrying just enough. What behavior justified restraints? No one answered. The engines clicked softly as power cycled. Somewhere, a card rattled. Danielle reached into her bag and removed the card again, but this time, she placed it on Aaliyah's tray table. Still face down. A quiet promise. 12:19 p.m., she said, writing. No articulated threat. No attempt at de-escalation. Harris stepped back half a pace. You're trying to embarrass me, Danielle met his eyes. I'm trying to protect my daughter. Aaliyah's voice shook. Can you please take it off? That did it. Linda looked at the captain. The captain looked at Harris. The chain of command wavered, visible as a crack in glass. Edward, the captain said quietly, using his first name. Remove the restraint. Harris hesitated. Long enough for the entire cabin to feel it. Then click. The cuff opened. Metal released skin. Aaliyah pulled her arm back, rubbing her wrist, blinking fast. Danielle exhaled for the first time in minutes. But she didn't smile. Because relief wasn't the end of this. It was the beginning. Harris straightened, defensive. This isn't over. Danielle closed her notebook. I agree. She finally flipped the card face up. Only the front row could see it clearly, but the captain's eyes widened. Linda sucked in a breath. Danielle slid the card back into her bag. Comment justice if you believe she deserved justice, Danielle said to no one in particular, voice steady. The plane remained parked. Phones kept recording. And Harris realized, too late, that the worst part wasn't what had happened. It was who had witnessed it. The cabin didn't relax after the cuff came off. If anything, the tension sharpened, focused now, like a lens clicking into place. Harris shifted his weight, scanning the aisle. Phones were no longer hiding. They were up. Steady. Watching. He turned toward the cockpit, lowering his voice. Captain, I need a word. The captain didn't move. You can speak here. That answer landed hard. Danielle noticed the smallest detail. Harris's hand brushed his badge, not to show it, just to reassure himself it was still there. Aaliyah leaned into her mother's side. Are we in trouble now? She whispered. Danielle shook her head. No, baby. Then, quieter. But we're not done. Linda cleared her throat. We should, verify the seat sensor, she said, already kneeling. She tapped the console. Nothing happened. She tapped again. Still nothing. Try resetting, Danielle suggested. Linda did. The alert light stayed dark. A ripple moved through the cabin. That's convenient, Harris said. Or telling, Danielle replied. The captain checked his watch. Maintenance can meet us at the gate if needed. Danielle nodded. Please do. Harris turned back to her. You still haven't presented identification. Danielle opened her bag again. This time, there was no hesitation. She removed the laminated card and handed it directly to the captain. He read it once. Then again. His posture changed, not dramatically, but unmistakably. Shoulders squared. Voice lowered. Ms. Carter, he said carefully. May I confirm, this is current? Yes, Danielle said. Issued last year. Harris frowned. What is it? The captain didn't answer him. Not yet. He handed the card back. Thank you. That was it. No announcement. No explanation. But the silence that followed was loud enough. A man in the aisle whispered, Did you see his face? Aaliyah looked up at her mother. What does it mean? Danielle brushed her hair back. It means we keep telling the truth. Harris stepped closer again, quieter now. You could have shown that earlier. Danielle met his eyes. You could have asked questions earlier. He looked away. From the back, someone clapped once. Stopped. Unsure. Then another clap. A third. The sound didn't grow, but it didn't disappear either. The captain raised a hand. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We'll be departing shortly. Harris stiffened. Captain. We're done here, the captain said. Danielle sat back, but she didn't relax. She knew better. Because here's the thing most people miss. Moments like this don't end when authority backs down. They end when accountability begins. Her notebook rested closed on her lap. The black cover looked ordinary. It wasn't. Aaliyah traced the edge of the tray table. Mom, are they mad at you? Danielle smiled, small and tired. Probably. Is that bad? Danielle looked around at the faces, some relieved, some shaken, some quietly determined. "No," she said. "That's how change starts." The engines began to hum again, deeper this time. The plane inched forward. But as it did, Harris pulled out his own radio and spoke under his breath. Danielle caught one phrase. "File a report." She opened her notebook again. "Type yes if you want to see all targets hit at once," she murmured, almost to herself. The plane taxied toward the runway. And somewhere between rows 18 and the cockpit, a new question took shape, one Harris couldn't control anymore. Who exactly was Danielle Carter? The plane reached the runway and stopped again. Not long. Just long enough. The engines idled, a low, vibrating hum that traveled up through the seats and into Danielle's ribs. She felt Aaliyah tense beside her. "Why did we stop?" Aaliyah asked. Danielle didn't answer right away. She was watching Harris. He stood near the jump seat now, radio clipped close, listening more than talking. His shoulders were rigid. Defensive. Not in control. That mattered. The captain's voice came on, calm but deliberate. "We're just waiting for final clearance." Final clearance. Danielle wrote the words down. She leaned closer to Aaliyah. "Whatever happens next," she said softly, "you stay quiet and stay close. Okay?" Aaliyah nodded. Across the aisle, the man with the phone lowered it for the first time. "You okay?" he asked Aaliyah gently. "Yes, sir," Aaliyah said. Danielle caught Harris watching that exchange. His eyes flicked away when she noticed. Here's what most people miss. When authority feels exposed, it looks for a corner to push someone into. Not loudly. Procedurally. Harris stepped forward. "Captain," he said, "we need to document this passenger interaction before takeoff." The captain turned. "We'll do that after landing. Protocol allows." "Protocol also allows discretion," the captain replied. "Which I'm exercising." Danielle felt it then. The shift. The moment Harris realized he no longer controlled the frame. He turned to Danielle. "Ms. Carter," he said, choosing each word, "your actions caused a delay." Danielle met his gaze. "Your actions caused harm." A beat. "There's something else," Harris said. "You should know." Danielle waited. "Once we land," he continued, "this becomes formal." She nodded. "I expected that." Aaliyah looked between them. "Mom?" Danielle took her hand. "It's okay." But here's the part Danielle hadn't said out loud yet, the part she'd been saving. She leaned forward just enough for Harris to hear her, and no one else. "This next part changes everything," she said quietly. "I didn't just document today." Harris frowned. "What are you saying?" Danielle tapped her notebook once. "This isn't my first flight." Harris stiffened. Danielle sat back. She didn't explain. She didn't need to. Curiosity is a lever, and she just pulled it. The plane lurched forward at last, accelerating down the runway. The lights outside streaked into lines. Aaliyah squeezed her hand as they lifted into the sky. Danielle looked out the window, watching the ground fall away. Because once they landed, the real confrontation wouldn't be in the air. It would be on paper. And paper, Danielle knew, was heavier than handcuffs. "Share this video so communities understand what was hiding," she whispered, not as a plea, but as a promise. The seatbelt sign chimed. The cabin settled. Harris returned to his seat, jaw tight, eyes forward. And Danielle opened her notebook to a page already half full. The landing was smooth. Too smooth for what waited on the ground. As the wheels touched down, Danielle felt Aaliyah relax for the first time since the cuffs. The girl leaned her head against her mother's shoulder, eyes closed, pretending the hardest part was over. Danielle knew better. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Passengers stood, stretching, whispering. But no one rushed the aisle. They waited. Watching row 18 like it was a stage. Harris didn't stand. He stayed seated, hands folded, eyes forward, until a soft click echoed through the cabin. Not a cuff. A badge clip. 2 airport security supervisors boarded first. Then a third man in a gray suit, no uniform, no visible badge. Calm. Older. Observant. He scanned the cabin once. His eyes landed on Danielle. Then Aaliyah. Then Harris. Edward Harris, the man said evenly. Harris stood. Yes, sir. Remain seated, the man replied. Not raised. Not harsh. Just final. Harris sat. The man turned to the captain. Thank you for holding. Danielle felt Aaliyah tense again. She squeezed her hand. It's okay, Danielle whispered. Just listen. The man stepped into the aisle beside row 18. Ms. Carter, he said. May we speak? Danielle nodded. Of course. Harris looked between them. Who is this? The man didn't answer him. He waited for Danielle. She reached into her bag and removed the laminated card one last time. She handed it over, face up, for everyone nearby to see. The words were simple. Stark. U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Compliance Auditor Danielle M. Carter. The cabin inhaled as one. Phones lifted higher. The man in the suit nodded. For the record, he said, this flight was randomly selected for post-incident review. Harris's face strained of color. Review? Danielle spoke calmly. I audit federal compliance with civil rights protocols, she said, including in-air security procedures. She looked at Harris. Including the use of restraints on minors. Harris opened his mouth. Closed it. The man continued. Ms. Carter requested this flight assignment after a pattern review flagged repeated complaints. Danielle added gently. Not about you personally. A beat. But about outcomes like today. Aaliyah looked up. Mom, is this your job? Danielle smiled at her. Part of it. The man turned to the supervisors. Please secure all reports, sensor logs, and body cam data associated with this incident. One supervisor nodded immediately. Harris stood again, voice tight. Sir, I followed protocol. Danielle didn't argue. She opened her notebook. 12:14 p.m. She read. Restraints applied absent articulable threat. 12:16 p.m. No sensor verification conducted. 12:18 p.m. De-escalation declined. She closed the notebook. Protocol exists to prevent harm, she said. Not excuse it. Silence. The man in the suit looked at Harris. You'll be relieved of duty pending review. Harris swallowed. For how long? For as long as it takes, the man replied. A murmur rippled through the cabin, quiet, controlled, but undeniable. Danielle knelt to Aaliyah's level. You did nothing wrong, she said again. This time, the words landed differently. They carried weight. Aaliyah nodded, eyes shining. Harris sat back down, staring at the floor. And for the first time since boarding, Danielle allowed herself to breathe. Because the twist wasn't that she had power. It was that the system had been watching all along, just waiting for the truth to be written clearly enough. And now it was. The aisle cleared slowly. Not because anyone was told to move, but because no one wanted to miss what came next. Harris remained seated, hands flat on his knees, staring at a point on the carpet like it might open and swallow him. The gray-suited man spoke quietly with the supervisors, their heads close, voices too low to hear. Papers changed hands. Phones buzzed. Procedure unfolded. But procedure, Danielle knew, only mattered when people respected it. Aaliyah tugged at her sleeve. Mom, she whispered, are we going to get in trouble now? Danielle shook her head. No. We're going to get answers. The man in the suit turned back. Ms. Carter, he said, I'd like to formally apologize to your daughter. He knelt, not theatrically, just enough to meet Aaliyah's eyes. What happened to you should not have happened, he said. I'm sorry. Aaliyah hesitated, then nodded. Okay. That single word carried more weight than a speech. Harris finally looked up. This is being blown out of proportion, he said, voice tight. I made a judgment call. Danielle met his eyes. Judgment without verification isn't judgment, she said. It's assumption. The supervisor beside him cleared his throat. Sir, we'll need your equipment. Harris removed his radio, his badge, his cuffs, placing them on the seat one by one. Each small sound felt final. Metal on plastic. Plastic on fabric. Across the aisle, the man with the phone lowered it at last. Thank you, he said softly, to no one in particular. The captain approached Danielle. Ms. Carter, he said. We'll make sure an official apology is filed as well. Danielle nodded. Please include the cabin crew, she said. They mattered today. Linda's eyes filled. She pressed her lips together and nodded back. The gray-suited man straightened. There will be a full review, he announced, not loudly, but clearly enough for nearby rows. Findings will be reported. Harris stood when instructed and followed the supervisors off the plane. He didn't look back. As the door closed behind them, something shifted in the cabin, not relief, exactly. Recognition. Danielle gathered her things. She paused, then reopened her notebook and wrote one final line. Outcome observed, she murmured. Witnesses present. Aaliyah watched her. Is that good? Danielle smiled, tired but real. It means the loop closed. They stepped into the jet bridge together. The air felt cooler there, cleaner. Aaliyah took a deep breath like she was surfacing from water. Behind them, a woman touched Danielle's arm. Thank you, she said. For not backing down. Danielle nodded. Thank you for paying attention. As they walked toward the terminal, Danielle felt the familiar mix settle in, relief braided with resolve. This wasn't victory. It was verification. And verification, she knew, had consequences. Her phone buzzed once. Then again. A message from her office. We saw the report request come through. Danielle typed back 3 words, I'm okay. Proceed. She slipped the phone away and took Aaliyah's hand. Because the story didn't end with a badge turned in. It ended with what happened next, after the witnesses went home, after the paperwork settled, after the system had to look at itself in the mirror. And that part was just beginning. The fallout didn't arrive with sirens. It arrived with emails. By the time Danielle and Aaliyah reached baggage claim, Danielle's phone had vibrated 9 times. She didn't open anything yet. She watched Aaliyah instead, how the girl stood a little closer than usual, how her eyes scanned uniforms without meaning to. Trauma whispers. It doesn't shout. A man in an airport blazer approached them carefully. Ms. Carter? He asked. I'm with airport operations. We've arranged a quiet room if your daughter needs. We're fine, Danielle said. But thank you. She meant it. Almost. They sat on a bench near the windows. Outside, planes taxied like nothing unusual had happened. That, Danielle thought, was always the strangest part. Aaliyah broke the silence. Are you going to write a report about me? Danielle looked at her. About what happened to you, she corrected. Not about you. Will people read it? Yes. Aaliyah considered that. Good. Danielle smiled. Then she opened her phone. The first email was from Internal Compliance Review. The subject line was blunt, immediate suspension confirmed. The second confirmed preservation of all cabin footage and maintenance logs. The third was shorter. From a senior official she knew well. This will not disappear. Danielle typed back, it shouldn't. At the edge of the terminal, Harris stood with 2 supervisors, waiting for an escort. He looked smaller now. Not punished, exposed. He noticed Danielle watching. Their eyes met once. Danielle didn't look away. He did. That mattered more than anger. Aaliyah followed her gaze. Is he mad at us? Danielle shook her head. He's thinking. About what? About how fast things change when people are watching. A news alert buzzed on Danielle's phone, just one, not viral, not loud. A short headline referencing a Mid-air incident under review. No names. No faces. Yet. Danielle slipped the phone back into her bag. Here's what most people miss. Accountability doesn't begin with punishment. It begins with records that can't be erased. They left the airport without ceremony. No escort. No applause. Just the quiet slide of doors and the weight of a day that had bent but not broken them. In the car, Aaliyah stared out the window. Mom? Yes? Next time, can we sit somewhere else? Danielle reached over, squeezed her hand. Next time, she said. We'll sit wherever you want. The road stretched ahead, ordinary and sunlit. But behind them, paperwork was moving. Interviews were being scheduled. Policies were being reread with new eyes. And a system that preferred silence had just been given a transcript. 3 weeks later, the envelope arrived. It was heavier than it needed to be, thick with inserts and careful language. Danielle recognized the return address before she opened it. She set it on the kitchen table and finished slicing apples for Aaliyah first, thin wedges, no skins, the way her daughter liked them lately. Mail? Aaliyah asked. Yes, Danielle said. Important mail. They sat together. Danielle broke the seal. The letter began the way these letters always did, measured, formal, precise. Findings concluded. Standards reviewed. Corrective actions initiated. Danielle read silently, pen tapping once against the margin. Then she turned the page. Aaliyah watched her mother's face. What? Danielle exhaled. They confirmed the violation. Aaliyah blinked. All of it? Yes. The letter detailed retraining mandates, revised procedures for in-air security responses involving minors, and a new requirement, verification before restraint, documented in real time. It named no villains. It named outcomes. At the bottom, a paragraph stood apart. We acknowledge the harm caused to your daughter. We apologize. Danielle folded the letter carefully. This doesn't erase what happened, she said. But it changes what can happen next. Aaliyah chewed an apple slice, thinking. So other kids won't. That's the idea, Danielle said. They walked to the park that afternoon. The swings squeaked. A dog barked. Ordinary sounds stitched the day back together. On a bench nearby, a woman recognized Danielle. She didn't approach. She just nodded once, respectful. Danielle nodded back. Later, as the sun dipped, Danielle opened her notebook, not to write, but to close it. She slipped it into the drawer where it lived between trips. The black cover caught the light, then disappeared. Aaliyah curled up beside her on the couch. Mom? Yes? Thank you for pressing the button. Danielle kissed the top of her head. I'll always press the button. The house settled into evening. Dishes clinked. A clock ticked. Somewhere far away, policies were being taught differently. Somewhere closer, a girl slept without replaying a metal click. And Danielle allowed herself a quiet, steady peace. 5 months later, the airport felt different. Not quieter. Not kinder. Just aware. Danielle stood near the gate window, coffee warming her hands, watching planes rise into a pale morning sky. Beside her, Aaliyah adjusted the straps of her backpack, taller now, more confident in the way only time can give. You ready? Danielle asked. Aaliyah nodded. Yeah. They were flying again. Short trip. Window seat this time, Aaliyah's choice. At boarding, a flight attendant paused when she saw Aaliyah. Not alarmed. Attentive. She smiled and knelt slightly to Aaliyah's level. Hi there, she said. Let me know if you need anything, okay? Aaliyah smiled back. Okay. They took their seats. No alarms. No looks. Just the low hum of a plane doing what it was meant to do. As Danielle fastened her belt, she noticed something new on the safety card tucked into the seat pocket. A small line, easy to miss. If you feel unsafe or misunderstood, notify a crew member immediately. Danielle traced the words once with her finger. Then she let go. The engines roared. The ground fell away. Aaliyah pressed her forehead to the window, grinning as the city shrank beneath them. Mom, she said, I like flying again. Danielle felt something settle in her chest. Not victory. Not closure. Dignity. She reached into her bag and felt the familiar edge of the laminated card, still there, still unused today. She left it where it was. Outside, clouds stretched endless and bright. If this shocked you, comment awareness below. And if you stayed to the end, remember this: real change doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives because someone pressed a button, took notes, and refused to look away. Yendi, thanks for watching.